In order to win in Valorant, you need to die less and make better trades. And the only way to do that is to have perfect positioning. A bad position and you're going to get caught out and die to enemy utility or double swinging, but a perfect position is going to allow you to take advantage fights and easily disengage when you're in trouble. Now, most people want you to tell them exactly where to stand on every single map, but the problem is position is fluid. It can change due to a number of different factors, including weapons, economy, enemies, agents, your agent, maps. There's a million things that can change positions. So instead, we can give you the golden rules to follow, and if you follow these, you will have a great position. So we're going to break it all down. Now, keep in mind, if you're looking to climb, by far the most important thing for you to master is the fundamentals. This goes far beyond things like crosshair placement and counter strafing. It includes things you probably don't even realize you're doing wrong, like peeking, spacing with teammates, or even just choosing where to stand. That's why if you want to consistently drop 30 plus kills in your games, you need our new Aim God Masterclass that teaches you everything from the fundamentals to every advanced concept that you could possibly need to climb. Right now, we offer a rank improvement guarantee, so if you don't climb, you don't pay, and we know it sounds insane, but our #1 priority is to be the standing name in the community for years to come, and the best way to do that is to create the best product we can. Check it out using the link down below. Now, the first golden rule for positioning is undoubtedly natural cover, and this is just the general areas on the map that deny abilities, fire, and information. So any wall, any corner, this is natural cover, and of course, the harder the surface is to be wall banged, the better the cover is. So some corner or boxes can't be shot through at all, and that's a much better piece of cover than the freaking paper mache walls on Ascent. Some cover is better than nothing, and you're still going to be able to deny information from the enemy behind them, but it's not going to protect you in the same way than a corner of a wall that can't be shot through. Now, it's a good idea that when you're not actively engaging a target that you know their location or you're swinging a very specific angle, you should be going from one piece of cover to the next. Not only do you hide your information about where you are, but you give yourself the opportunity to disengage. How many times have you started a gunfight and you know that right off the bat, your spray just completely got away from you? Well, if you have a piece of cover, you can easily step behind, reset, and then either use an ability, re-engage, or just dip out just completely. But if you are playing in the open, you have no choice but to all in, full spray, and freaking pray, and most of the time, that's not going to work at all. Basically, what natural cover gives you is options. It allows you the flexibility to commit to a fight or disengage from a fight based on advantage, disadvantage, and a number of different factors. Even if you're confident and think you could win the 1v1, what if your opponent pops an ultimate or an ability that basically completely exposes you? Like a dart comes really high and you can't easily shoot it, and you're gonna get scanned. Now, if you're close to a piece of cover, it's no big deal. They know where you are, but you can disengage from the fight and reset. But if you're not near a piece of cover, you're basically a sitting duck and you're gonna die for free. Now, a lot of people might ask, what is an off angle? And an off angle oftentimes is a place that doesn't fit near a natural form of cover, because naturally people are gonna play near cover, and a lot of the common angles are strong positional angles that do play near cover. And when you take an off angle, you're sacrificing that cover for unpredictability. And this can be strong, but you are sacrificing so many other benefits of natural cover when you take an off angle. And a lot of times, if you're not climbing, it's because you're not sticking good or well enough to the fundamentals, and you're just forgoing all the rules and trying to justify it by saying, oh, well, I'm taking an unexpected angle. You're not really doing that if you do it all the time and you're dying all the time. All you're doing is not playing good fundamentals and calling it an off angle. Nail down the fundamental cover and places to hold first, then apply off angles when appropriate, and they're going to work better as you go up against better opponents that know the proper angles people should be staying in, and they are not just wide swinging every angle anyways, so your off angle isn't really getting any extra value. It only just has a huge amount of weakness compared to more traditional solid angles that play around cover. Now, next up, as far as positioning is concerned, we got to talk about trading. And it's really important that you are also cognizant of where your teammates are playing and how they're playing, because that can make a position stronger or weaker. If you're playing a position that if you die, none of your teammates can see you and trade you, it's far weaker because you don't have those resources of your team to follow up and get that trade. But if you're playing in a position that makes sure that if you die, your teammates can actually trade very easily, and if they die, you can trade very easily, it makes the position far stronger regardless of where y'all are standing, because at the very least there's some value attached to the positions, right? This is also super important to where if you're challenging somebody like in a 2v1 situation, if both of you swing the person at the same time, but you do it from angles to where the only way the enemy team could kill you both is by hitting a ridiculous hard flick, right? They have to hit one in front of them and then one to like the direct right of them or even behind them. The positioning of the engage makes it almost impossible for the enemy to clutch up. And that's something else to consider when deciding how to fight and how to trade. How does the position of you and your teammate make it either easier or harder for the enemy to clutch up the 1v2? This leads us to the next golden rule, and that's effective range. Whether your weapon is effective from a certain range can change whether or not that position is good or bad, because just because a place is protected doesn't mean it's strong. You also need to be effective in that location, in that angle, and if you're playing a really long sight line with natural cover, but you got a freaking Bucky, it doesn't matter, right? So your weapon's strength in range can make a position stronger or weaker, and if you can play to the maximum differential between your weapon and your opponent's weapon, the stronger your position will be. Like for whatever reason, let's say that you have an operator and you know that there's an opponent that is only using the judge on the enemy team. This automatically makes any close range space positionally weaker and any long distance open space stronger, because your gun is going to be better at those ranges. You're going to be able to control the engagements a lot better, and you're making the opponent's weapons weaker. And by understanding what the enemy is likely to play based on their economy, like if they have a lot of money, they're likely to buy maybe snipers or rifles, and if they have a little bit of money, they're going to buy some more eco weapons. Maybe they're going to buy shotguns on defense, or they're going to run like stingers on attack and make a rush strategy trying to close in that effective range. Understanding this is going to allow you to position better to deal with people that are trying to close in their range using their abilities, bursting out with utility, or just using the map geometry to try to get in close and fight the fights that they want to fight. But if you know what they want to do, then you can constantly back up, give space, and make sure that your engagements are in the range that benefits you the most. Now, the next thing that you need to consider when trying to pick the perfect position is what information do you have about who's left alive and where they are. If you know that certain areas of the map are impossible for an enemy to exist in based on prior information, or whether or not the enemy is trying to stick the bomb or something along those lines, then you don't have to play around that position, which means where you can hold and where you can stay can basically ignore that angle, which opens up a lot of other positions that otherwise would not normally be safe without any information, because you don't know where enemies are, where they're wrapping, where they're hiding. But in certain situations, you know 100% where an enemy is, where they were last seen, how much time they have left, and this allows you to deduce what positions they could be in or where they are just 100%, which means that you don't have to play around certain areas. So if you know where an enemy is, or you know 100% where they are not, you could reposition accordingly. And something that I would always say, if you're maintaining a passive position, if something changes on the map fundamentally, then you should probably reposition if you can. So what I mean by that is if the enemies are popping ultimates, if people are dying on your side or the enemy team, ask yourself if there's some position that you can take that is better for if the enemy rotates or makes a play on you if you're holding a certain area. Just because a position was really good at the start, at the very beginning of a round, doesn't mean it's the best position after several people have died, ultimates have been used. There's no longer the explosive utility that people use right at the start of rounds to take a point, or maybe they might be rotating off so they don't have that explosive utility anymore. So all of these factors can affect whether or not a piece of position is good or worse than it was before. Maybe there's something way better, but it's weak to like a raise, nade, jet, dash, execute, but those pieces of utility were already used. You don't have to play around them anymore. And that leads me to the last thing, which is ability use. And there are some positions that are fundamental and solid, but every time you play them, you get dumped with utility. You get flash, you get grenaded, you get killed, you get set up by the enemy team. They're doing lineups, or they're doing, a combination of abilities to flush you out or kill you. And you need to pick up on the habits of enemies too when they're doing this, because if you're not playing that position and they use utility like you are, then you're just gonna get value for that. You're getting value because they're using utility to clear that space, and then you're not there. But if they're not actually dumping utility there, if they're just kind of blinding onto sight and just trying to run it out and not using utility to shut down that space, well, then all of a sudden that position becomes better. So something to understand is the less you play a position, the stronger it becomes. The more you play a position, the weaker it becomes, because habits allow people to pre-use utility to shut down a certain piece of space. So if you have a really great spot that you love to play, but you play there every single freaking round, I promise you the enemies will come up with abilities to set up an unfair advantage, whether they're just triple swinging you or using a whole bunch of utility to flush you out of there. So keep that in mind, especially if you have been successful in a position multiple times in a row. Expect your opponents to mix up how they approach dealing with that space, because it's not gonna often be, we're just never gonna fight you, right? That's what you would hope. Oh yeah, you learned a lesson, you just step off, just go to the other side. They're gonna find a way to deal with you, right? They're gonna find a way, because they know where you've been playing, they know the positions you're taking, and it makes it weaker by default because of that repetition. But anyways, these are the golden rules to master positioning. But if you have any questions for us, definitely let us know in the comments down below. And check out our aim guide on the SkillCapped website if you quickly want to get better and start to pop off in your games by hitting headshot after headshot. Anyways, thank you so much for coming by, and we'll see you next time.